The Merovingian is one of the most interesting and mysterious characters in The Matrix, one of the few returning characters in Matrix 4, and one that holds several fundamental secrets that could affect the story of the upcoming sequel. Would you believe me if I told you that the Merovingian has a school for young exiles to educate and groom them to become members of his clan? Welcome to Matrix Explained.
Welcome to the desert of the real.
The origin of the Merovingian can be traced back to the Second Renaissance during the Machine War. The first time we ever heard of the Merovingian was from the Oracle, who sent Neo to meet him. The Oracle described the Frenchman as being one of the oldest programs, which corroborates with the speculation that the Merovingian has been around since the war.
He's being held prisoner by a very dangerous program. One of the oldest of us. He is called the Merovingian.
After his introduction, he is established as quite the philosopher, a leader of a group of programs who do not agree with the system, and someone who has a grudge against the Oracle. Recently, it has come into our possession the official guide of the Matrix Online video game, the continuation of the Matrix Revolutions. In it, there is much interesting information about multiple characters of the Matrix. As of this video, the story of Matrix Online is still considered canon, so the information documented in this guide is still relevant. The page describing the Merovingian is especially interesting. It reads, "The Merovingian is the hedonistic crime lord of the Matrix. He is selfish and self-interested, with business concerns that range from harboring exiles to hoarding rare illegal codes and eventually taking over sections of the Matrix. He has remained in power through several iterations of the Matrix and claims to have faced off with Neo's predecessors and survived."
Mark my words, boy, and mark them well. I have survived your predecessors, and I will survive you.
The Merovingian's control of events in the Matrix are far-reaching, but not complete. He is still in exile and still must fear the machines, though he would never admit it. His unique assets include a construct called the Mobile Ave Station, a place between the Machine City and the Matrix that programs can use as a secret conduit to reach the Matrix if they are to become exiles. Expatriate programs often find themselves indebted to the Merovingian when they reach the Matrix and must serve him in return for their passage. In addition, some exiles have given their children over to the Merovingian at Mobile Ave, sending them into the Matrix rather than allowing their code to be deleted in the source. These exiled orphans usually end up at the L'École de la Tour, an elite boarding school run by his organization, where exiled children are schooled in academics, culture, business, and combat. Graduates of the Tower, as the students call it, often go on to become his most efficient and trusted operatives, valuable assets to his organization. The Merovingian is married to Persephone, an exiled who he once coveted enough to force to his side through trickery. Their relationship has deteriorated greatly, but the Merovingian is trapped by his own past deeds into spending at least half a year with Persephone in residence at his chateau. The Merovingian is not an easy man to see, but he can most often be encountered at his restaurant, La Vraie, or at the ultra-exclusive Hell Club, both located downtown. Pretty interesting stuff, right? The Frenchman is described as a collector of illegal and rare codes, so maybe the code that he used on the woman's dessert in the restaurant was not a code that he created, but rather a code that he obtained through illegal means. The fact that certain codes are labeled as illegal is in itself interesting, because it means that the architect filters through the codes and deems them legal or not legal, which codes can be used in the Matrix and which codes cannot. Perhaps some of these illegal codes come from other versions of the simulation. The page confirms that the Merovingian does fear the machines, but he hides it well. He is also pretty good at hiding, which is why it is difficult to get an audience with him. He is very cautious. But the most interesting detail found in this description is the Merovingian's school. When we met Sati in Matrix Revolutions, we believed her to be someone special and unique, the first program to be born from other programs, the first child program. But based on this information, Matrix programs do experience something similar to human childhood and upbringing. This is big information because it reveals that Matrix programs are created as children, then grow into adults. So perhaps most, if not all of the programs that we met in the Matrix were children at one point. Imagine that, a baby Smith. These escaped programs from Machine City enter the Matrix with the help of the Merovingian. Many of the child programs that needed to be left behind by their parents were adopted by the Frenchmen and were sent to the school. The parents would rather have the Merovingian take care of their children than have them be deleted by the source. Understandable. This boarding school, the Tower as the children call it, educates them into becoming the most efficient programs as they possibly can, to then join the Merovingians' organization. So some of the thugs that Neo fought and killed in the Merovingians' chateau may have been orphans raised since childhood by the Frenchmen. Although raised might not be the appropriate word, it's more like indoctrinated into joining his army. The similarities between the Merovingian and the Oracle become more evident, as the intuitive program also takes in and raises children with special abilities. Are they being indoctrinated by the Oracle? We don't know for sure, yet. However, it is possible that the potentials, the children that the Oracle protects, share a similar purpose as the children of the Tower. They are soldiers being trained to fight in the war between the Merovingian and the Oracle. Certainly an interesting and possible plot device for Matrix 4. If the sequel follows Sati's story, then the existence of the Tower would make sense. It explains the return of the Merovingian. The Frenchman might have kidnapped Sati and took her to his school, or she was raised by the Oracle and must fight against the Merovingian and his students. But do you agree? Did you know about the existence of the Tower? Will the Merovingian school be shown or mentioned in Matrix 4? For Matrix Explained, please leave a like and subscribe. And thank you for visiting the Desert of the Real.